Hello and welcome to the Dine 16, a food podcast about Sacramento, where we take you behind the scenes and introduce you to the people in Sacramento who are making your favorite dining experiences happen. I'm your host, Max Connor. I am joined by my co-host, Neill Little, who has taken a little break to grace us with his presence from his pizza making. Neill, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Just in the middle of letting some dough rise right now and cooking up some Detroit-style pizza tonight.
That is your favorite style to make, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Fluffy and doughy, like almost like a focaccia underneath. It's definitely my favorite. And it's good to be back on here. I have been busy as ever at work right now. It's actually really nice to see, it's kind of the first holiday season back where everyone is comfortable being out and about, and it's fun to see some old familiar faces and really get events going and people out and about. So it's really been fun to see and kind of gives me hope that things are getting back to normal. You been to anything fun recently?
Yeah, I have. I went to Bondolio's open house. For those of you who don't know Bondolio's, it's a small olive oil farm in Winters, and we had Karen Bond on an earlier episode of the podcast. We'll link in the show notes. If you want to learn all about how world-class olive oil is made here in California, go back and listen to that episode. But with olives, they harvest them once a year, and then they make the olive oil right there in 90 minutes and bottle it, and that's what they have for the whole year. So this is sort of their celebration event. And they have tastings of olive oil and balsamic vinegar and all these different vendors, and it was delicious and incredible. Really, really amazing.
I actually just used a bit of that olive oil on the last bit I had on the pizza I'm using right now, so that's pretty fun. One of the fun things about pizza that I enjoy is how many people have such different opinions on what good pizza is, whether it's New York, Sicilian, Napoleano, or even Detroit style like I like. A lot of people have a lot of different ideas of how exact food should be. Some of those being barbecue, fried chicken, tacos, among others that people have opinions on. And we are fortunate enough to have Chef Greg Desmangles on, who has dived into all three of those food types in terms of creating his own identity with his restaurants, from Bawk to Urban Roots, and now La Cerveceria at the Shack.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Greg also, has moved pretty quickly from executive chef to essentially running a little mini Sacramento empire at this point of all these different restaurants, taking over the Shack and opening that new Cerveceria as well. Apparently they are making their tortillas by hand, was the plan right before they opened. I haven't been over there to check it out since they opened, but it is open now. Anyway, let's get to our conversation with Greg to hear all about his history of growing up eating good food with his mom, all the way to being the head of running these 4 different kitchens in Sacramento. Greg Desmangles, thank you so much for being here on the Dine 16. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Right on. So we always almost open the show by just asking people, what was food like in your childhood? What was dinner like at home? What got you connected to food early on in life?
Food was everything in my childhood. If you can't tell by all this physique over here, this is body by soul food, courtesy of my mama Gina. Anyways, but no, food was everything. That was all our gatherings, good, bad, or indifferent. I would say 95% of my childhood memories are connected to food, whether it be my grandpa and me in the backyard on our family's land, planting the garden, whether it was me reading Stone Soup for the first time, and my grandparents were watching me for the summer, and they entertained me the entire day, and we really made stone soup. So I went out and found a stone, and we boiled it, and went to the garden, and, I had to go to my grandma and then go back to my grandpa and back and forth. And, they give me these different ingredients, and we made the soup, and we sat and ate it with cornbread. Thanksgiving, I was always in the kitchen trying to grab scraps. All the men were watching football and basketball, and I could care less. Because at that point I hadn't played any sports, and I was the chunky kid in the kitchen trying to lick the cake bowl, And it was just everything that was comforting to me. That was a lot of because my mom moved to San Diego when I was real young. Well, not really, I was 4, but we moved to San Diego, and it was me and her in San Diego. And my dad was very much present, but he was just in Sacramento still. And so when it was just me and her, a lot of our experience was just food. I go to school. In the morning, she'd take me. First off, I wake up. I got 2 breakfasts. So I woke up. I got a smaller breakfast just to kind of hold me over. Then she would make the real breakfast that we would eat right before we left. And then on the way to school, she'd give me 2 donuts. So my mom kind of set me up for success, in happiness, but eating habits, definitely detriment. But, then she picked me up. I went to like a private Christian school and we ate really good. Like they made all the meals from scratch and stuff like that. It was like in the middle of the hood, but food was excellent. Kids were terrible. Food was amazing. And then she picked me up and we go home and we might go to the Chinese spot that was down the hill from our apartments in San Diego. Or, my mom, everything she cooked was from scratch. Nothing was out of a can. Nothing was frozen. And even as a single mom, like that was her commitment.
Wow.
And so it was just like there wasn't an option. That's just how, that's how I think how my mom really with me, that's how she showed her love. Like even when, she might have been struggling or whatever the situation may be, like financially, it was like, oh, I got a sugar butter sandwich. But to her, it was something that this is our only option right now. But for me, it was a treat. I was like, shit, I get to eat sugar and butter, for my dessert or whatever the situation may be. But that was always, kind of my love connection.
So when did you know you wanted food to be a part of your future beyond just the passion between you and your mother? Like when did you know like, oh, I want to be in the kitchen creating this stuff?
I don't know if I necessarily had like a moment where I was like, I'm going to be, I kind of. So like, I've always loved food. Food's always a part of my life. But, I did the thing. I'm trying to make my family happy. I think I'm admittedly a people pleaser. I want people to be happy. I've always kind of been a solid kid. I never got into a bunch of trouble and stuff like that. And, my parents and my family has always done right by me. So I try to do right by other people and stuff. And so I wanted to be the doctor and the lawyer. I've always been told I was smart and good at math and all this other kind of stuff. But I never could stand school. And for the reason of like, you got to tell me, even though I aced trigonometry, calculus, but when am I going to use this in real life?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what about this is going to make me successful in life? And because of that reason, I didn't apply myself. And if I tried, I'd crush it, but I just didn't want to try. And I'm not stimulated. This doesn't make sense to me. Like I love sports. And that was probably the only reason why I stayed through high school. And obviously, like, honestly, my parents kicked my ass for trying to drop out. But, back to the kind of the original question is, I went to be a lawyer and a doctor and all that kind of stuff. And I just was like, I can't do this. Like I was paying out of pocket. It was just community, college. I was going to ARC or whatever. I had this moment where at the time I was working at Bel Air as a bag boy and I was walking through, I think I was doing like go backs, which is like taking all the stuff from the front that people didn't want or took out their cart and you put it back in the aisle. And our store manager came up and he was always like super high energy. He just irritated my soul. And I was just like, bro. And he came up, he was like, you really don't seem like you want to be here. And I stood up and I looked at him. I was like, yeah, I think you're right. And he kind of like looked at me and I was like, yeah, I was like, this isn't, nothing about this is fulfilling. And he was like, all right, his name was Randy. And I had been asking at this point, Rob, my uncle, I've been asking him for, I don't know, months, maybe even over a year at this point. I'm like, hey, I just want to work at Pangea. I was like, I don't like whatever. I don't care. But I went in with my mom and we would sit at the bar and we would just talk and kind of just like watch service and stuff. I mean, sometimes we'd come in, he'd be asleep on the couch because it'd be so slow in the afternoon. But this one night we came in and it was bumping and there was people sitting at the bar and all kinds of stuff going on. And I had my first craft beer. Of course, I was 21. But I had my first craft beer and it was Quack. It came in this crazy glass and it was like this wood stand and it was like an hourglass shaped glass, but it didn't have like a flat bottom. So you had to sit it back in the stand, but it was real awkward to just like pick up and drink out of it. And so anyways, I'm drinking this beer and I'm like, wow. And it's just this energy and there was this buzz. And this was like at the kind of almost like the beginning of, the craft beer movement in Sac and people taking it seriously, cause it was like, at that time it was like $8 for 10 ounces. Like you've lost your mind.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like what's, is it golden or glass? At this point, it's like, is it cold? And I was just like, I just want to work here. And he was like, no, he didn't want to work with family. I'm a young kid. He's like, he don't know how to work hard. He doesn't care. Whatever situation is. I'm guessing they were just understaffed. And it was 2011 Beer Week. And then he finally was like, you still want to work? I was like, hell yeah, I want to work. Like, what's up? Like, let's go. I'm still in college. I'm still working at Bel Air and stuff. And he was like, yeah. He's like, all right, come in. We need you for the weekend. So I just bust and washed dishes for 3 days. It's the longest 3 days of my life, but it was the funnest 3 days of my life. And it went by like that. Like, though it was long and it was hours on my feet and stuff like that, but it went by in a flash. And I was super proud because I didn't break a glass until literally I was doing my last run for the night on the last day of beer week. And everybody at Pangea likes to crowd around the corner when you walk behind the bar, and somebody just turned around and bumped me, and I dropped like a glass. And I remember the whole bar being like, oh, right. And I just froze for a second because I was like, everybody's paying attention to me. It got super loud and everybody just laughed it off. And I just remember being like, and something was just like, I don't know what exactly I'm supposed to do, but I'm supposed to be here. You know, like, this is the energy. Like, I think at that point I had just been doing what people have been telling me to do. And that was the first time I had something like outside of playing sports and stuff in high school that I was like, wow, there's something magical about what's happening, you know, in this space. And I couldn't put my finger on it. It was just like the energy and the people that were there and when they were there and the movement, everything else. So pretty much from that, I just kind of slowly started dipping getting a little deeper and deeper into it. And I was like, I like food and whatever. And because it was kind of like a rotating door who was running the kitchen at the time, which was like panini press and, you know, like French bread pizzas and nachos and stuff like that. And I think we had a couple salads. And they're like, oh, you like food? Well, you know, you can do it. So I started taking like more shifts in the back and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll like take it over. And I thought I was doing something like running the kitchen with my like 2 catering ovens, 2 panini presses and a microwave, 2 turntables and a microphone. I just kind of made it up in my mind. I was like, you know what, this isn't for me. I was like, I really like food. And I went to my mom first because I was like, I'm thinking about being a chef. And I was super like, and I wasn't even confident like in me it coming out of my mouth. And my mom was like, you should totally do it. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah, you'd be great at being a chef. And I was like, you think so? And she was like, totally. You love food. All you know is food. That's all we've ever done. And that gave me the courage to be like, all right, I'm going to go tell everybody else. And I told my dad, and my dad, of course, being a man, he's very cerebral and he's an engineer and stuff. So
he uses calculus.
Exactly. And for him, it was, he was the same thing. He's like, you'll be great at it, but you realize the field you're getting into, you're not gonna make a lot of money. And you realize the lifestyle that you've been provided, we like nice stuff and we like to travel and do things like that. Are you prepared to make that sacrifice? And I was like, I'm young. I'm like, yeah, of course, for sure. But it's like, but he gave that to me, and some family members weren't so excited, and some were more excited, and whatever situation may be. And then I started staging at Taylor's and whatever situation was. But that was kind of the point for me, I guess, when I told my family, because my family's everything for me. I still to this day work for my family. I've never worked for anybody else in this industry. So like me saying that out loud, because me talking about it to myself, and even signing up to go to culinary school and everything else. And it was also a thing for my family too, because I was like, I don't really want to do this college thing anymore. But my first semester in college, I got a 4.0. So my family was like, this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And I was just like, I'm just not passionate. Because then every semester after that, I just went down. But after I told my family about my mouth, I guess that would be the moment that I like committed to myself, like, I'm going to do this. Really long-winded.
That was like the perfect
story.
Answer right there. Like, you wove in family, you've got a local restaurant. Like, I loved every one of it. So you started in the back, then you moved up to the front of the kitchen. So you went to culinary school after Pangea?
So yeah, I started at Pangea, just like bussing tables and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm gonna go to culinary school and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And Josh Nelson from Sellens actually came in and stuff, and he was sitting at the bar. He used to come in pretty much every night. And I was talking to him. I was like, yeah, Josh, I'm really excited to go to culinary school. I signed up, I think it was Kitchen Academy at the time. And I was like out in the Thomas. I was like, I went out there. I had done everything except for financials. And so I signed up, did the tour, everything just on my own. I was like, I'm putting my big boy pants on. This is what I'm doing. Nobody's going to tell me otherwise. And he was like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. He was like, because he was the first person, like, there's people in my family that I was like, but you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm telling him because, he's in this industry. And he was another person that kind of had that same approach, like, as my dad did. He's like, just make sure you know what you're getting into. If you really want to do this, or he asked me, he said, why do you want to do this? And I was like, I gave him, the off the cuff, and I love food, and food's my life, and this is, all the things that really don't matter when it comes to becoming a chef. And he was like, okay, that's all cool, but when you stop loving it, then what? And I was like, then I'll just keep working. And I think when I said that, he was like, all right, well, if you're going to go to culinary school at all, which I don't think you need to, don't go there. They just got X, Y, and Z class action suits, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, all right. And he was like, if you are going to go to school, go to ARC. But first, just get into a kitchen. And I was like, all right. And so I started staging at Taylor's. And it was dope. I think I was there for like 8 months. But it was just a stage. I used to come in every Tuesday, work like 4 or 6 hours and stuff like that. And I was doing the culinary school thing at the same time at ARC. But I was learning more, and it was like 46 hours a week than I was at school. I was paying for that, and it was like, I think I was at school like 24 hours or 24, 26 hours a week. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to just go do the stage thing, just put my head down, you know, and just learn. And then, you know, from that point, it just went. So, yeah.
Had you done much cooking at home growing up? Like, had you ever really got in the kitchen at home, or was it really just that first foray and that weekend at Pangea where you suddenly started to think like, I'm gonna cook?
I always like to cook at the house. I mean, you know, in my opinion, I just kind of used to, outside the holidays, it was just bullshit. You know, it was kind of like, you know, excuse my language, but it was just, I come home, I make noodles. For the most part, I think 90% of my diet was Alberto's at that time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was a young kid after high school, you know, I'm partaking in shrubbery with my friends every weekend, and all we did was, you know, play basketball, chase chicks, go out, work out, get high, and then, you know, play 2K and eat Alberto's. Yeah. That was like our whole, you know, that was our whole existence.
Loser buys. It's automatic.
What's your Alberto's order? Now,
my Alberto's order, I got 3 Alberto's orders. I'm either going carne asada fries, just straight up, and it's always with horchata, period. Large horchata, always. It's either that, or I'm going with the super carne asada burrito, or if it's breakfast time, I'm going number 24 add sour cream. But always with horchata.
I was going to say, do these vary by different hours of the night and stages of soberness?
Oh, yeah. Like standard is like late night, or like, you know, not even late night. I'll say like middle of the day or something. Anything outside of breakfast, it'll be the super carne asada burrito. When I was, you know, partaking in the shrubbery all the time, it was number 20. It was the number 24 in the morning. And it was really the carne asada fries. And with the carne asada fries, I started like adding bacon and shit to it.
Sure.
And so I was just like, whatever I can do to add on to this is gonna be great. You know, and so it was like, that was definitely the late night. I'm stoned out of my face. Like, I'm gonna go eat some carne asada fries and like crush this entire horchata. And then I might, you know, if I'm really like stoned at the time, I would get like rolled tacos.
Right.
Yeah.
I love the rolled tacos.
Yeah. Number 24 is I get that pretty much. Doesn't matter time of day. That's what I get. And then usually I'll order my kids rolled tacos, and then I'll eat 2 of them.
There you go.
So. I'm impressed you guys know these numbers. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I've ordered it many a time.
I don't. Yeah. I have no idea how many times I've gone through that drive-through, but I guarantee if they did a rebuild today, me and my friends pay for half of it. Like straight up. It was an every night thing, because it was also like, when I would be coming home from work at Pangea and stuff, when I was closing the line and stuff, I come home and I just stop at Alberto's. Literally, it was times where I come home and I'd be so tired. I stop at Alberto's, I sit in front of my TV, I take like 3 bites of my burrito, and then I wake up with my burrito like on my chest.
Right.
Like, oh shit, I need to go to bed, and I need to take off my chef pants and go lay down, and, you know, whatever the situation was. But it was like, it was a whole lot of that. Yeah.
So you said you always have worked with your family. So you started at Pangea. What was your next step after that?
So I was at Pangea until Urban Roots opened.
Okay.
And so started busting whatever, started working in the kitchen. We built out a kitchen. My uncle, Rob Archie, hired Rob Rossi as our chef. He came in. He realized I had 0 experience, skills. I was terrible on the line. So I got kicked all the way back down to dish after like running our program or whatever. And then I just worked my way up from dish. And then it was like dish prep for a couple years. Then I finally got back up to the line when we got a new sous. At that point, I was in a situation where it was like, I was a prep, but I was also, you know, the family member. So I was like, oh, you want to be a chef? And so it was just like, you know, yeah, you're a prep, but you're also like running brunch and like doing all the prep for brunch and washing dishes on that shift and whatever else came along with it. But I just was never really put on the line, especially at nighttime. I was working the line in the morning, which was cool, but I wasn't getting like the high volume reps of like, all right, I'm just gonna be on the station and I'm just on saute and grill or whatever situation. Because it's a small, especially at Pangea, it's a smaller kitchen, you know. So it's like if you're on grill, you're cooking burgers till your hands fall off. And then, but like I like saute because at the time, Rossi was really pushing us, and we were, searing birds and cooking airline breast to order and doing steaks and scallops and all kinds of stuff, burger included. That was challenging, but it was dope because I was learning and I was getting pushed every day. But I didn't really get a chance to do that until we got a new sous, and he was like, hey, he needs to get up to the line. He's like one of our stronger guys. But it was a situation where like I've been doing prep so long, they didn't want to teach anybody else how to do prep so I could get off the station.
You were too good at it.
You know what I'm saying? So that was just the situation. Yeah.
When Urban Roots was opening up, you guys are primarily barbecue now. Were you a part of any of the decision making to go towards barbecue, or did you just follow your uncle's lead?
So the barbecue conversation, so there was always a brewery conversation.
Okay.
Rob and Peter, Rob was always like, if I ever open a brewery, I'm doing it with Peter. That was just, he just made his mind up, and, because Peter had done Odonata releases and stuff like that earlier on before he, started selling the raw materials for brewing and stuff like that. And I did a dinner. It was like my first ever dinner. It was called Mama. And the food was good. Portions were terrible. I can only imagine what the food cost was on it. But I did like a smokehouse ramen. I like made the noodles from scratch and all this other kind of stuff. And Rob and Peter had the ramen, and Peter had like come up to Rob and was like this is the thing. Cause I did like smoked pulled pork on it, and I did a slice of brisket on it. And Peter was like, this is the thing. And like the next day, I think we were talking about it and stuff. And I think we were closing up, and he was like, yeah, maybe we need to do barbecue in like a brewery or something. I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, all right. And then as they started getting more serious about it and started having talks, and then they got the location, and they're like, this is what we're doing. We're doing barbecue with the brewery. And I was like, say less. I'm like,
yeah.
whatever you need, like, let's do it. And so it was like, at that point, which is kind of, now that I think back, was pretty insane, because at that point, like, I was a sous chef, but I never ran a full kitchen by myself. Like, I had a lot of the duties and stuff in the kitchen, but I had no idea what it was like to, run a full kitchen, and nonetheless a place the size of Urban Roots. Like, I went from Pangea, which is like a quarter the size at best, to Urban Roots, which is a monster. So I was like, between the volume, I'd also never cooked barbecue professionally. Like, we did specials and stuff like that. Like, I do ribs here and there, but I was working on a box smoker in the back, so it was like, it was nothing like the smoker we have now. And I started getting reps, and we got like a little Oklahoma Joe, I think we got from like Home Depot or something. Brett got from Home Depot. And so I was just like trying to get some reps. But it was, I watched all the Aaron Franklin. I read all the books I could and stuff like that. And that's just kind of been my journey, where it was like, I didn't come from Texas and work under XYZ and Lubbock and Austin. And also in my family, it wasn't like we did barbecue, but like it was like, California barbecue. Like
backyard barbecue.
Yeah. We like grilled chicken thighs and hot links and shit like that. And then like my dad was feeling saucy, he'd do his ribs that he like, put a bunch of sauce on it, rolled and put it in the oven. And I still love his ribs to this day, but it's nothing like anything we do.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I had zero idea what I was getting into, especially, and then we had changes in management and stuff. Like, by the time we were open, Brett was moving to Amsterdam. And so, like, I took on majority of the brunt of, like, getting that place set up, and I had zero clue what I was doing. Our opening crew was a disaster. Like, it was like, and it was like, I think it was a lot of good intentions, and it was a lot of hard work. But it's just, when you have no idea, it's just like you're running the walls at full speed.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's just like, how fast can you get up and start running again? Because like, that's kind of what I took on as my superpowers, was I can take feedback really well, and I can implement it super fast. And I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to show up before you, I'm going to leave after you. And that was just kind of like my mantra, because I didn't have the experience. I never felt like I was, super gifted. Like, I know how to make stuff taste good, but it wasn't anything that I just pulled out thin air how to cook brisket. It was just reps. And that's just kind of been our thing. It's just our process. It's just like, you got to show up and you got to try. You got to take notes and you got to care. And you just got to keep, and we do it to this day. We're still tweaking on our brisket to this day. We're tweaking on our ribs to this day. We're tweaking on what smoked meats we use, what wood we use, what temperature. Like, we just changed our schedule on the smoker to a 24-hour schedule. So, like, we have somebody in the building all the time right now.
Wow.
And we got a guy that's our pit boss. He's not a pit master yet, but he's our pit boss, Isaac Wilson, and he works his ass off. He started as a slicer and just moving around the line. He's been with us at this point for probably like 3.5 years and is obsessed with barbecue at this point. But I think now we're getting to a point of really understanding and communicating, like, these are our standards, and creating that culture just through our actions and our decision making. And it's not easy, because it's easy to want to let people be comfortable, because that's what's comfortable for everybody. If you're comfortable, then I don't got to worry about you not wanting to work or not wanting to do this shift, or, you know, catching an attitude or whatever the situation is, right? Like, somebody working overnight, there's a lot of trust involved in that. You're in the building by yourself. And the reason because we did it before, and just the crew we had at the time and just the infrastructure we had, it was a nightmare. So now we have that infrastructure, and, you know, we have most of that crew. I'm trying to build that team like we built the brewery team. You know, I'm looking nationally. I'm trying to talk to whoever I can, and I'm trying to get serious people that care about barbecue or are willing to come and submit to a process to get on that station and really invest in it. We're hanging our hat on our smoked meats, and that's where we're putting our flag in the ground. You know, we're not trying to be everything to everybody, but we are trying to be the best barbecue that we can be, and hopefully the result is as being the best barbecue in California at some point, being the best, you know, barbecue on the West Coast in general, in the nation, whatever the situation may be. But it's like, those are the aspirations we're having, because I look at our brewery, I don't look at like what other people in Sacramento are doing. I'm not even looking at what other people in California or whatever. I'm looking at our brewery, and they have obviously a lot of local respect, but they have national and international attention and respect. And I want us to get to that same point of reverence in the barbecue community as Peter has in the beer community, and still be able to be the fun space that you can come and throw your parties at and have a great beer, but also be really serious about the smoked meats we're putting out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's rad. I love that.
I'm starving now.
What are you most proud of so far at Urban Roots, barbecue-wise?
Barbecue-wise, I mean, our brisket. It's cliche, and everybody always talks about their brisket and stuff, but brisket is a fickle mistress.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a thing that I've seen us do really well, and it's a thing that I've seen us not do so well, you know. And what I've just realized at this point is it's just effort. It's effort, and it's commitment, it's consistency. And that's the thing I'm proud of, is our consistency right now. It's just not so much an individual. Like, our brisket I'm proud of, but like our ribs are amazing right now. Our burnt ends are amazing right now. And our consistency that we're but, you know, it's the consistency that we're getting to. Consistency with the smoker, and just like attention to detail that we're getting to. Our fire management, really like the fundamentals, which is like nothing obviously anybody that doesn't work in a smokehouse thinks about, but it's like the first book I read when I was learning how to work a pit was Aaron Franklin's book. When I read it, I was like, why is all the recipes in the back? What I realized is, no, recipes don't mean shit.
Yeah.
As you get deeper into it, it's all about the process. That's why he talks about how to build a smoker and how to build a fire and how to pick wood and the density of wood and the water level in it and how to build a fire and oxygen and smoke, and breaks all these things down, because you have to have an innate understanding of all these things before you can worry about a recipe, because you can get this recipe and you're going to thrash it because you have no idea what you're doing on a pit. You don't understand what dirty smoke is. You don't know what high combustion fire is. You don't know what clean smoke is. You don't understand airflow. You don't understand a green log versus a properly dried log. You know, there's all these things that it's a really simple process, but because it's so simple, all the details stand out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, before because it's convenient and we don't got to worry about it, we get 16 mesh black pepper to come in. Now we're grinding it, you know what I'm saying, pretty much to blend. And so it's like the freshness, and you're getting that pepper pop and things like that. And so it's just like really evaluating from top to bottom, like, how can this be the best product that we can put out, period. And it's banging on our producers, and it's making sure we're trimming it properly. And is this the best brisket we can get that makes sense in this market? You know, that makes sense for our process, and on and on and on.
Yeah. Wow. So you've taken on barbecue, and then you guys decide to spin off and open another spot and take on another of people's favorite, you know, soul foods, if you will, that people can have very strong opinions about in fried chicken. So tell us about the process of deciding to open Bawk and how that went.
Yeah, I mean, Bawk has been a lot of things at this point. And I think that Bawk is now starting to hit its stride. I mean, it started as just kind of, it was going to be a passion project, between two people. It's now Urban Roots, and we're now, I think, just now finally starting to really understand where we want to be and what we're trying to do in that space. But, it's we obviously like doing what people have a lot of opinions about.
Yeah.
Being fried chicken. But I really like where we're at right now with our fried chicken. I think we've gotten back to just like what we feel is good fried chicken. I think in the beginning it was a lot of like what people think, and is this unique, and is this different, and who else is doing it? And that's just not what we do as a company. We do what we want to go eat.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're common people. At the end of the day, that's, if I want to get fried chicken, it is how it is at Bawk.
Right.
If I want to get barbecue, that's how it is at Roots. If I want a taco, that's how it's going to be at the new spot. And so it's like, now that we're really kind of understanding and really getting comfortable, I think, in our own skin, and really starting to, I think, appreciate ourselves for the time that we spent in the industry. I think we've always come from a really, really humble place. And we continue to be humble, and we continue to, keep our ears open and try to learn and take feedback and stuff like that, because that's our lifeblood. But it's also really starting to understand, like, what do we do well, and doubling down on it.
Yeah.
And being confident in that. And also understanding, like, yes, there's feedback, but there's also a reason why we're at where we're at. And to continue to stay on that wavelength of keeping things simple, but executing to the best of our ability.
So you just let a little comment out there. Another opinionated food topic. You guys are doing a taco spot?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to talk about it?
Yeah. We
Okay.
can talk about it. We're getting close to opening.
So what's where, when, how, all that?
So we took over the Shack,
Oh, okay.
Oh, no
okay.
way.
All right.
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
hear about that. I didn't realize. Okay.
but we've taken over the space. We're just doing a fun like California taqueria. It has a full bar, so that part is gonna be focused, heavily on agave, so tequila and mezcal.
Mm-hmm.
We also have some Mexican corn whiskey and stuff, but it's fun. It's gonna be a really fun bar using a lot of different Mexican and Latin ingredients, Mexican chocolate and peppers and all kinds of stuff. The tasting for the bar has been really fun. We also are gonna have like frozen margaritas and stuff for, keep you cool. And
Yeah.
all that kind of good stuff. We're making our own agua frescas in house, so they're soaking rice and cinnamon and all that kind of stuff, overnight for 2 days, blending it, doing all that good stuff. In the kitchen, we're doing tacos. We're hand making our own tortillas. So we're getting the masa, portioning them, pressing them by hand. No machines at that time. That might change, depending on, obviously,
Volume.
For sure. I'm sure there'll be a learning curve across the board. But yeah, we're making our own tortillas, our own core tortillas. We're even doing our own flour tortillas for our carne asada taco, in kind of the direction of like a Sonoran style taco, just kind of paying homage to that region. But really, it's we're just trying to keep it real simple. We're not trying to do anything that's pretentious or anything like that. It's just trying to be a California taqueria. You're gonna be able to come get carne asada fries and all that kind of stuff. We even got a couple plays on your local Taco Bell, stuff like that. So we're not taking ourselves too seriously. We're trying to pay homage, but at the same time, we don't want to be intrusive on the culture. We just want to pay homage and, have a good time. And it's what makes sense for that space. We talked about a couple different concepts, but it worked out. Our chef over there, Garrett Rodriguez, that's what he does on his own time with his own pop-up and stuff too. He makes Mexican food and does tacos and all that kind of stuff. So, it all kind of worked out serendipitously.
That's great. Neil's excited.
Very.
The listener is missed
You
like
hit beer, barbecue, and tacos.
several fist pumps from Neil over there on the podcast side here.
Yeah,
So let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned Josh, I think it was, said what happens when you stop loving it. And now,
Right.
you're in a position that is a long way away from, just being a chef, running a
Right.
kitchen, getting to make food. So what excites you? What's hard about it? How is it being in a position of like real management over a growing empire at this point in Sacramento of food?
Yeah, I think as like a young chef, a lot of what like we crave or even as a young cook, it's like you become a sous chef, you become a chef, and first thing you think about is like creativity, and I have this control, and I get to my food, and I want you to understand what I'm thinking, and it's a lot about yourself because you spend so much time executing other people's, you know, and I think that was a lot of the sentiment that was passed down to us. Like, this is my food, this is my kitchen, this is the way I do it, you know, and with myself, what I've learned is it's not about that. And I've also realized why, like, some of those people I've worked with haven't been successful in that, right? Or like, it hasn't, at least for myself, it's not a successful situation because it's not about me or myself or whatever the situation may be. I might know what works, but we execute it. You know what I'm saying? It's very much a team. Like, we used to start and be like, oh, we're a family. And family's cool, but sometimes family's dysfunctional. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And you don't get a choice with family. And so now it's a team, right? Because we all have our function, and it's a secondary family, but we have our function first, and we all got to do our part. You know what I'm saying? We got to play defense and get on offense and make sure we communicate and screen here and whatever the situation is. And everybody has to play their part in their position for us to be successful. As far as in my position, it's finding inspiration and it's finding drive in these new positions of like what is motivating and inspiring for me. And at this point, what's motivating and inspiring for me is like figuring out the best ways to provide a safe environment for the team. And safe, not just being like, you know, physically safe, but also like mentally safe, and people feeling, you know, like if they feel like they've been done wrong, they're heard. And we're constantly stewarding those things, making sure our systems are running properly, making sure that, you know, we're profitable so everybody can make a equitable wage and everybody's put in an equitable position. We're trying to provide as much or as many benefits as possible. You know, right now we'd have healthcare and like 401k and stuff like that, but we're looking to continue to expand on those things.
Yeah.
For myself, I'm learning that like my job is consistency, pretty much. Just across the board. I haven't had anybody in this position before me in the company, obviously, because the company is young and growing and things like that. We got a new CFO, Josh Blackman, who I'm learning a ton from. We're all learning a ton from. And so I think it's just taking on new challenges and understanding that like food is not the only thing to be passionate about, because I still very much deal with food. I just deal with the big picture of food. But as far as like being the chef, it's understanding like how all these different spaces, because none of our concepts are the same,
Right.
And so they're all different beasts, which is kind of like I'm getting a crash course on all ends from that right now, you know, because like I'm a new dad and we're actually expecting again.
Oh
now.
wow, congrats.
So,
Congrats.
Thank you, appreciate it. And so it's like it's the same situation. Like the business needs something, my wife needs something, our child needs something, and then within the business, Urban Roots need one thing, Bawk needs one thing, Pangea needs one thing, and now Cerveceria needs something different. And so just understand those different concepts, understand those different chefs. So it's a lot of time management for myself. It's a lot of organization for myself. That's probably the biggest challenge is you don't have a boss. And so you got to figure out how your time is best spent and, you know, kind of triage, like, you know, where do we need to stop the bleeding first, or what fire is bigger and how much faster do we need to put it out?
Now, I know you're doing a lot outside of the restaurant as well, and I know you participated in the West End Dinner and the Bridge Dinner Fest, the Farm to Fork Festival. Tell us what these events are like for you and what it's like to be a part of them, especially now being one of the bigger names and chefs in town.
I appreciate that. It's been super fun. I mean, I think I've always had a level of appreciation for like the Bridge Dinner and things like that, being a young cook and a young chef in the city and hoping to get invited to it one day. Actually being out there, and then also after the pandemic having a whole nother appreciation for it, because it was illegal to do what we do as a career for 2.5, almost 3 years. And so being able to do it on a large scale is beautiful, especially with the Bridge Dinner. That was only my second year being able to work the Bridge Dinner, and for my second year to be put out there as a featured chef on the Bridge and to be able to work with my peers and chefs I've looked up to for a lot of years. It was super exciting, but it was nice to bask in the moment for a little bit, especially for myself. I feel I'm humble. I don't know if other people perceive me as that, you know, but I feel I'm humble. I'm confident at the same time because I put the work in, but I don't do a lot of living in the moment. I think it's kind of hard to do that, especially in this industry. I mean, today, you know what I'm saying, if you're an adult and you got kids, or even if you're just an adult, like you're thinking about the next week, the next month, the next bill. Because if you spend too much time in the moment, you get left behind. And so it was nice to, because it's almost like 10 months of planning for the bridge dinner. And when Brad gave me that call, I was kind of like, because he said, so like I was a pod chef last year, and he was like, yeah, maybe next year you'll be out here. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, he's full of shit. He's not saying, I'm not going to be a chef. This is my second year. He's not going to, call me. But he was dead serious, and he called me, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, You know what I'm saying? Like it took a good couple of days for my cheeks to relax and to stop smiling, Also for myself, just kind of seeing like where I stand amongst my peers and can I cut it? And I was confident in what I did, full transparency. My rice was a little crunchy on the bridge, which I wasn't completely happy about. But, overall, it was a dope experience, and being able to work at Central Kitchen, which was amazing. That place is a chef's fucking candy store. Like, if you haven't been to that place, it is an amazing space, and they're doing a lot of dope stuff for the Sacramento Unified School District over there. That was a life-changing experience for myself, but it was also just a kind of a boost for myself and my confidence, and just understanding where I kind of stand in the lay of Sacramento. And also it was dope to feel that kind of recognition and respect from my peers and just Sacramento in general. The events in general, like doing the West End event, that's super dope because I always like doing anything that's involved with Last Supper Society. Byron and Ryan do really good work. And also just being out there with the peers, being out there with, Dennis and Gina and Jareen and Billy and, on and on and on. It's always fun because I have a different appreciation for that. Before it was like I was the cook that like didn't get paid to come out and hand out whatever bites we were doing, for these events before. And I was kind of like, all right, like, yeah, I like going out here because I get to see the chefs and stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not getting paid and I'm not going to be home till 2,
Right.
But now being able to do these events after we weren't able to do them, I just think there's a different level of appreciation for it because it's like none of this is promised. I think that we're back in the swing, and I think a lot of people have like kind of started to lose that appreciation because that's what we do. We're always looking forward. We're always in hyperdrive. What's next? What's the next menu? It's literally you put a menu on, you're like, all right, so you start working on the next menu immediately. And so it's like to stay present, but also stay appreciative of this is where we're at, and we are not that far removed from where we couldn't do these things.
Well, that was fantastic. All those answers were amazing. I'm totally enthralled right now and still starving.
Yeah.
We got to stop doing these at noon.
No, we do it at the worst. We're always doing food podcasts, and
It's time to eat.
yeah. It's like,
And I mean, I don't know. I know a lot of restaurant people I know, but like I'm terrible about eating breakfast too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
now, exactly. So now it's like I'm ready to eat now.
Yeah.
And brisket street tacos with fried chicken sounds outstanding
It sure
right now.
does.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, shout out to my wife. She make sure I eat breakfast. We went to Frankette before this. So.
oh, nice.
I like Frankette.
Yeah,
I love
Frankette's solid.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she gets her quiche every time we go. I get the brioche and jam, and then we figure something else out.
Nice.
Today we did like the little summer galette, which was fire. So
Right on.
Yeah, it sounds good too.
So we'll jump into rapid fire food questions that we like to do at the end.
Cool.
So the first one, we may have already hit this one, but what's your favorite cheap guilty pleasure?
cheap guilty carne asada fries.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite dish to cook at home?
Cook at the crib. Anything involving noodles. Noodles is a deep love of mine. If I wasn't cooking food from, what I'm currently doing, it would be something involved with noodles. I love Thai noodles. I love Japanese noodles. Yeah, it'd either be that or grilling.
Yeah.
If I can be outside, but I don't like not grilling in a restaurant, like over a gas grill, like outside over like mesquite coals or something like that. That's also, but I don't really consider that like cooking. Like
Sure.
that's kind of like, that's a
Sunday.
pastime for me.
Right.
Like, because I can grill and have a little something in my glass, and even if I want to smoke a cigar or something like that, I could all do that outside, and I don't got to worry about nobody talking to me. Even if there's 1,000 people around, it's me and the grill. So maybe it's grilling.
You just mentioned Frankette for breakfast. What's another place in Sac that you'd love to throw a little love to that maybe people don't know about, or is a place you go on an easy Wednesday night or lunch or whatever?
A place that people don't know about. Noodles to Thai for on 24th and Split 2nd. In Curtis Park. It's a real small spot. It's right next to like the DMV building.
Okay.
It's like it's right across 2nd from, or it's actually catty corner Cafe Dantrell's.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Right
Yeah,
across
yeah.
the Curse Park Mart. It's super small. And it's like, it has this weird ramp that you gotta like walk around and then walk back up the front. But it's this little family that runs it. Some of the best, if not the best, Thai noodles in Sac.
And what's it called again?
Noodles to Thai for.
Noodles to tie for.
Yeah.
Nice. That's
Love a bad
solid pun.
Yeah. No, it's and the thing is too is like I don't eat a whole lot of pad Thai in Sac because it's all pretty watered down for at least most of the stuff I've had, unless you go to Little Saigon. This place does fire pad Thai. Because like I usually go for like pad see ew because I'm like, that's usually all right. But the pad Thai there is ridiculous. All of it's ridiculous.
I'm going next as well. What dish from your childhood would you love to go back in time to eat?
Ooh, I would say my mom's fried chicken and mashed potatoes. She just did a dinner. It was real simple. It was all wings, the whole wings with all 3 pieces connected. She used to shake it in like it'd either be like a paper bag, but most of the time it was like a gallon Ziploc.
Mm-hmm.
And she just threw her seasonings and the flour in there. And then she make mashed potatoes, a lot of black pepper, of course, a lot of butter and milk. And my mom makes the like fluffiest mashed potatoes, and I don't know how. And it's like she doesn't use a ricer. Like she uses like a little hand mixer, and they're the fluffiest mashed potatoes.
Wow.
I'm like, it is ridiculous. And then usually she would do greens. And then if she did greens, then she would do hot water cornbread too. Or she would do like fried chicken and cabbage, and she do cabbage with like kielbasa, and she use like she put like some pepperoni juice and stuff. But I would mashed potatoes, greens, fried chicken, hot water cornbread.
Right on.
Yeah,
I think that's the perfect place to end it.
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing else at this point.
Well, Greg Desmangles, thank you so much for coming in, being on the Dine 16. It was great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I am starving right now. Brisket is one of my favorite things to eat. So is fried chicken. And then him letting us know about the Cerveceria, like he just hits all 3 of my like craving foods that I really want at any given moment. And I am so excited for what he's doing for Sacramento and really bringing his love to his food and sharing it with people. And I love that his goals are not just regional level, that he wants to be on the level of like a national known, I don't want to say brand, but a national known product that he's putting out there.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, I love his ambition, his willingness to take on these classic American favorites. And now's the time of year to get out there and eat them, man. I mean, you can put down some brisket and some fried chicken and a few tacos and then throw on that extra large hooded sweatshirt and no one's the wiser. So I've certainly been partaking in that type of eating lately myself after Thanksgiving and coming into Christmas, which is why this is, one of my favorite times of year.
It definitely is a good season to eat. Put on that sweatshirt, throw on those stretchy pants, and go indulge.
Yeah, forget cuddle season. It's eating season.
I'll cuddle up to some brisket. Don't threaten me with a good time.
Absolutely. All right. Well, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe or follow us on all the podcast platforms, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. You can also check us out on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. That handle is @Dine16. We'll keep you up to date on the guests we've had and what they are doing. And if you want to reach out to us, contact us directly. If you have ideas for the show or guests you think we should have, reach out to either Max at Dine16.com or Neill, Neill, at Dine16.com. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you like this episode, please share it with friends and family. The easiest way to do that is to just share if you're in the podcast app on your phone, or just send them the link to Dine16.com. Anybody can listen to the podcast on a phone or any device right from there. The latest episode is right at the top of the website. Just email it or text it to somebody and they can hit play and check out this episode with Greg. Our opening and closing theme music are by my brother-in-law, Mark Owens. The Dine 16 is a production of the Hear Me Now studio in Citrus Heights, California. Join us next time as we have another chef on who has an unbelievably unique story as to how she got into cooking as an executive chef. One of the more unique backstories we've heard to this point, to making her way into a restaurant kitchen pretty much accidentally. So stay tuned for the next episode. Should be out next week. Until then, as always, and in this holiday season, eat something you love with someone you love.